me pregnant! Patrick, tell me she's lying.
3 months ago, Patrick Rice lost his marriage, his reputation, and nearly his mind, all because of one lie told on Christmas Eve in front of 23 witnesses at an Italian restaurant in Beverly Hills. But there was proof he didn't know he had, and there was a mistake they didn't know they made. In 72 hours, the truth would surface and burn the whole plan to ash. This is a story about how fast a lie can run and how truth always owns the road in the end. Patrick Rice was 34, a network security professional living in Pasadena with his wife Angelina. They'd been married 6 years. Their life wasn't glamorous: tight budget, long commutes, a modest house they just scraped together a down payment for. But it was steady. Patrick was the kind of man who showed up. Reliable. Quiet. The type who fixed things without announcing it, who remembered anniversaries, who stayed late to finish work projects so his team wouldn't fall behind. Angelina was different. She worked in marketing and social media at a mid-sized ad agency in LA, ambitious and sharp, always chasing the next promotion. She had energy Patrick admired, a hunger he didn't share but respected. They'd been talking about trying for a baby. The house was ready. Their marriage felt solid, or at least Patrick thought so. He thought a lot of things that turned out to be theater. Then there was Kayla Reynolds, Angelina's younger sister, 29 years old and a walking storm system. Kayla had lived with them twice, once after a breakup, once after losing a job, and both times Patrick had tolerated it for peace. She was dramatic, always performing some crisis, always needing rescue. Angelina defended her like blood was a bulletproof shield, and Patrick learned early that questioning Kayla meant war. So he stayed quiet and counted the days until she left. But Kayla never really left. She was always there, at the edge of their lives, texting at midnight, borrowing money, showing up unannounced. Patrick felt her presence like humidity before a storm. The night everything shattered was supposed to be a celebration. Christmas Eve. Angelina's father was hosting the annual family gathering, and they'd booked a private room at an upscale Italian restaurant in Beverly Hills. The kind of place with white tablecloths, candles in amber glass, and a massive Christmas tree in the corner wrapped in gold ribbon and white lights. Garland draped across the ceiling beams, and someone had queued up a playlist of classic carols playing softly through hidden speakers. 23 relatives packed around a long table decorated with pine branches and red berries, wine flowing, laughter bouncing off the walls. Patrick had helped Angelina wrap gifts that morning. They'd drunk coffee together while addressing cards. She'd kissed him before they left the house and said, "Merry Christmas, babe. Let's make this one count." He'd believed her. Now he sat near the middle of the table, tired from a brutal week at work, but hoping for one calm evening. Around him, cousins exchanged wrapped boxes. Angelina's mother was passing out homemade cookies shaped like stars. Someone made a toast. Glasses clinked. For a moment, everything felt warm and right. Kayla arrived an hour late. She came through the doorway with red-rimmed eyes, tissue clutched in one hand, mascara smudged just enough to look devastating under the soft glow of Christmas lights. She wore a dark green dress that might have been festive on anyone else, but on her it looked like mourning. Conversations died in a wave as she moved to the head of the table. Patrick's stomach tightened. He knew that look. Kayla was about to perform. "I'm sorry to do this on Christmas Eve," she began, voice trembling. The room went silent. Forks stopped midair. A Christmas song about silent nights played in the background, painfully ironic. "But I can't carry this anymore. I have something I need to say." She paused, looked down, then back up with tears streaming. "I'm pregnant." A beat of confusion rippled through the room. Then, congratulations started rising from different corners of the table, tentative and uncertain. Angelina's aunt reached out as if to hug her. Kayla held up her hand, and the room froze again. And the father... Her voice cracked perfectly, like she'd rehearsed it. She looked directly at Patrick, and the world tilted. Is Patrick... The air left the room. Every sound stopped. The music kept playing. Something about peace on earth. But Patrick couldn't hear it over the rushing in his ears. He opened his mouth, but no sound came. Around him, faces turned in slow motion, shock rippling outward like blast radius. Angelina's wine glass tipped, red spreading across white linen like blood on snow. Her mother gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Her father stood so fast, his chair scraped like a scream, knocking a wrapped present to the floor. That weekend in September, Kayla continued through sobs, when Angelina was away for her conference. We had wine. I was so lonely. He was there. Something happened. She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this. I know it's Christmas. I know this ruins everything. But I can't lie anymore. The Christmas tree lights blinked cheerfully in the corner, oblivious. A child at the far end of the table asked his mother what was happening. She shushed him, eyes wide with horror. Angelina turned to Patrick, and he saw something flicker in her eyes. Was it confusion? Rage? Or something else? Something colder and more calculated. Tell me she's lying, Angelina said, her voice low and dangerous. She is. I wasn't even... Patrick's words tangled in his throat. Tell me she's lying! Angelina's voice shattered the silence like breaking glass. A woman across the table flinched. Someone's child started crying. Patrick stood, hands raised in a gesture of innocence that looked like surrender. Angelina, this is insane. I never touched her. I was never... You were home alone that weekend. Her voice dropped to something cold and surgical. I was in San Diego. You told me you'd stay home and work on the house. I wasn't home. I was in Seattle. I had that audit. But no one was listening. The room had already decided. Angelina's father was shouting about police and lawyers, his face red under the twinkling lights. Her mother was crying, being comforted by her sister. Cousins were standing, backing away from Patrick like he carried disease. Children were being ushered out by confused parents. A plate fell and shattered. Kayla sobbed into Angelina's shoulder while Angelina held her, both of them a portrait of feminine betrayal under the glow of Christmas candles. Patrick tried to speak, but the noise swallowed him. He tried to explain, but his words hit a wall of judgment already set. In 10 seconds, he'd been tried and convicted by 23 people who'd known him for years. On Christmas Eve, the night of forgiveness and family and peace. Get out, Angelina's father said, his voice shaking. Get out of this restaurant. Get away from my family. You're not welcome here. You're not welcome anywhere near us. Patrick looked at Angelina one last time, searching for any hint that she knew this was madness, that she'd defend him, that their 6 years meant something. She stared back with eyes like winter. He left the restaurant in a daze, Christmas shoppers on the street, holding bags and laughing, completely unaware that his life had just ended. The valet gave him a look that said the whole staff had heard every word. His phone started buzzing before he reached the car. Text after text. Angelina's cousins, friends who'd heard through the family grapevine. Someone had already posted something vague on social media, and co-workers were texting question marks. The drive home took 20 minutes through neighborhoods decorated with lights and inflatable Santas. Every house was warm with yellow windows and the promise of gifts in the morning. Patrick's hand shook on the steering wheel. When he pulled into his driveway, he knew before he got out of the car. He tried his key. The lock didn't turn. A note was taped to the door. Right under the wreath Angelina had hung last weekend. Don't contact me. My lawyer will contact you. Merry Christmas. Patrick sat in his car for 30 minutes, staring at his own house like a stranger. Through the window, he could see the Christmas tree they'd decorated together, lights blinking on a timer. Presents underneath that he'd wrapped. A life that no longer belonged to him. He drove to a motel off the 110 and checked into a room that smelled like industrial cleaner and defeat. The clerk was watching It's a Wonderful Life on a small TV behind the counter and barely looked up. Patrick lay on top of the covers, fully clothed, staring at a water stain on the ceiling while his phone buzzed endlessly with messages he couldn't bring himself to read. The reputation he'd built over a decade was disintegrating in real time. On Christmas Eve, before we go further, if you're seeing this nightmare unfold, hit subscribe and drop a comment with your theory. Why would Kayla destroy him on Christmas? What's really happening here? I want to hear what you think. Patrick didn't sleep. He replayed the dinner frame by frame, searching for sense in the chaos. Outside, he could hear families arriving back at the motel, car doors slamming, children arguing over who got which present, normal people having normal Christmas Eves. Around 3 in the morning, something clicked in Patrick's exhausted brain. September. Kayla said, September. That weekend, Angelina was in San Diego. Patrick wasn't home working on the house. He was in Seattle for a network security audit. 3 days. Mandatory. The whole IT team had gone. He'd flown out Friday morning and returned Monday night. He grabbed his laptop with shaking hands and started pulling files from his email and cloud storage. Flight confirmations, there, United Airlines, seat 12A. Hotel receipts, there, the Marriott, downtown Seattle. Email calendar invites with timestamps and location data. Photos he'd taken of the Seattle skyline from his hotel room, geotagged and dated. A selfie with 2 co-workers at Pike Place Market. Christmas decorations visible in the background of the famous sign. He had an airtight alibi. Patrick tried calling Angelina. The phone didn't even ring, straight to a message that her voicemail was full. Blocked. He tried her parents. Blocked. Her brother, her cousin she was close with, Daniel, his best friend. Blocked across the board. He sent emails that bounced back with automated responses. He tried texting from his work phone. Nothing. The village had closed its ears, and he was shouting into a void. On Christmas morning, while families opened presents, Patrick sat alone in a motel room with a folder full of proof that nobody would see. When the village closes its ears, truth speaks through paper. His grandmother used to say that. She'd been gone 5 years, but her voice was clear in his head. Patrick printed everything at the business center downstairs, the clerk giving him a pitying look like he knew exactly what kind of Christmas this was. Monday morning came. Patrick's boss called him in before he even made it to his desk. Patrick, sit down. The words were careful. Lawyer reviewed. We've received some very disturbing calls over the holiday weekend from multiple people claiming to be family members. Allegations of a serious personal nature. Patrick's throat tightened, but he'd prepared for this. He pulled out the folder and laid it on the desk. Flights, hotels, photos, work emails, everything proving he was 600 miles away in Seattle that entire weekend. His boss nodded slowly, examining each document. I believe you, he finally said. This looks solid. But Patrick, you have to understand, we've had calls to HR. There's been social media activity. For your protection and ours, we need to place you on paid leave until this is fully, publicly resolved. I'm being punished for something I didn't do. You're being protected. Once you clear your name, and I think you will, you'll be welcome back. Patrick walked out past a security guard who wouldn't meet his eyes, past co-workers who suddenly found their computer screens fascinating. He drove back to the motel and sat on the bed until dark. That night, sitting in the dim room with his evidence spread across the mattress, a darker thought emerged and took root. Kayla was pregnant. That part was probably true, which meant somewhere there was a real father. Someone she was protecting so fiercely she'd burn Patrick's entire life on Christmas Eve to hide it. Who was worth that much cover? Patrick remembered something: the family phone plan. Years ago, when they'd gotten married, Angelina had added him to her family's shared plan to save money. He'd never thought about it again. Why would he? But he still had access to the account. He'd never looked at anyone else's data before. It felt like a violation, but his life was already violated. He opened the carrier's website and pulled call logs. Kayla's number. The last 6 months of data downloaded into a spreadsheet. What he found made his hands go cold. One number called constantly. Late nights, long calls, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, sometimes past midnight. Dozens and dozens of them, a pattern that spoke of intimacy and secrecy. Patrick ran a reverse lookup through a people search site. Derek Morrison, Angelina's boss, 52 years old, married 20 years, 3 teenage children. The agency's senior director, the man who controlled Angelina's career trajectory, her raises, her promotions. Patrick had met him twice at company holiday parties. Firm handshakes and bland small talk. The kind of powerful man who smiled with his mouth, but not his eyes. Patrick stared at the screen until the letters blurred, his mind racing through implications. But there was more. Patrick pulled Angelina's call data next, his heart hammering. He shouldn't be doing this, but then again, she'd helped destroy him on Christmas Eve. Normal rules didn't apply anymore. The pattern that emerged made him feel sick. In the 2 weeks before Christmas Eve, there were triangulated calls. Kayla calling Derek, then Angelina calling Kayla, then Derek calling Angelina. Tight little coordination windows at odd hours, strategy sessions, planning. And then Patrick found the financial thread that made everything click into place. Buried in the shared email account they still technically had, the one they used for household bills, he found a notification Angelina had tried to delete. A performance bonus deposited 3 weeks before Christmas, $15,000. Nearly twice her normal salary. From the agency. Patrick's hands were shaking now. He remembered arguments they'd had about money over the summer. Angelina had been evasive about a credit card debt that had mysteriously vanished. She'd mentioned Derek was helping her position herself for a senior role, but had been strangely secretive about the details, changing the subject when Patrick asked follow-up questions. He pulled up old texts, old emails, piecing together fragments. Angelina had been anxious about money. Then suddenly she wasn't. Derek had been mentioned more and more. Then the Christmas bonus appeared. Patrick sat back against the headboard and saw the whole picture assemble itself like a puzzle. This wasn't Angelina being fooled by her manipulative sister. This was coordination. This was conspiracy. Angelina knew everything. She'd probably known from the start. Derek Morrison was having an affair with Kayla. When Kayla got pregnant, it threatened everything. Derek's marriage, his career, his reputation. But Derek had money and power. He'd made Angelina an offer. Help cover this up, help us frame someone else, and you'll be taken care of. The bonus was just the start. Probably a promotion was promised, maybe more money. Maybe Derek had paid off her debts. Frame Patrick, use the false accusation to justify a divorce with Angelina as the victim. She'd get the house, the sympathy, her career protected and elevated. Derek would stay unexposed, his marriage intact. Kayla would get child support quietly, no scandal. Everyone wins, except Patrick. Patrick was the acceptable sacrifice. The quiet tech guy nobody would believe over a crying woman on Christmas Eve. They'd weaponize the holiday itself. Maximum emotional impact. Maximum family pressure. No room for questions when a woman is sobbing about betrayal under Christmas lights. Patrick's grief hardened into something colder. Something focused. He called Daniel Rodriguez at 6 in the morning using a burner app. Daniel had been blocked on Patrick's regular number, but this went through. Patrick, where are you? I've been trying to reach... I need the best divorce attorney in LA who handles fraud cases. I need them today. What's happening? I was set up. I can prove it, but I need a lawyer who fights dirty. By noon, Patrick was sitting across from Patricia Winters in a high-rise office overlooking downtown LA. She was 40-something, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She listened to his evidence with the intensity of a surgeon examining an X-ray, making notes in precise handwriting. "Your alibi is airtight," she said when he finished. "Seattle work trip, documented 6 ways. But if we can prove conspiracy, that your wife knew, that she coordinated with her sister and the real father, you're not just defending yourself, you're going on offense. I want everything, the truth out, my name clear, and I want them to face consequences." Patricia smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Then we'll need more than call logs. We need proof of coordination, financial ties, evidence of the real father." She brought in Raymond Cole, a private investigator who looked like a retired cop and had the personality of a bloodhound. He'd worked fraud cases for 20 years. "Get me hotel records," Patricia told him, "credit card trails, anything that connects Morrison to Reynolds. And check the wife's business trips. Verify if they were real." Then Patrick remembered something else. Something obvious he'd forgotten in the chaos. The home security system. He'd installed it himself 2 years ago, cameras covering the front door, driveway, and living room. All linked to his personal account, his email, his cloud storage. In the panic of being expelled from his own life, no one had thought to remove his access. He still had the app on his phone. Patrick opened it with trembling fingers and started scrolling through archived footage. The system kept recordings for 90 days. What he found was a bomb. Late October, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Timestamp, 11:34 p.m. Kayla's silver Honda in the driveway. Then a black Lexus pulling up behind it, the plates clearly visible in the high-definition frame. Patrick zoomed in and screenshotted the license plate. He ran it through a public records search, registered to Derek Morrison. The footage showed 3 people entering through the front door: Kayla, Derek, and Angelina. They sat in the living room visible through the camera angle, talking intently. The body language was coordinated, collaborative, not confrontational, not surprised. This was a meeting. The session lasted 47 minutes. Patrick downloaded the footage to 3 different USB drives and uploaded copies to 2 separate cloud accounts. This was evidence that could disappear. He wouldn't let it. Raymond Cole came back 4 days later with more ammunition, his report typed and documented. "Your wife's supposed marketing conference in San Diego?" He slid papers across Patricia's desk. The hotel had no record of the company booking any rooms that weekend. No conference by that name occurred, but Derek Morrison's credit card was used at a boutique hotel in La Jolla the same dates. The Seabreeze Inn, Ocean View Suite. "Can you prove Kayla was there?" "Better." Kayla posted a photo on Instagram that weekend. Sunset from a balcony with distinctive Spanish tile. She deleted it within hours, but I recovered it from cache data. The tile matches the Seabreeze Inn balconies exactly. I called them. They confirmed a guest in that room, but won't release names without a subpoena. "Which we'll get," Patricia said. She filed a lawsuit the next day. Fraud, conspiracy, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. As part of discovery, she subpoenaed Kayla's medical records from the pregnancy clinic. The records came back with a detail that destroyed everything. Conception date, estimated between July 28th and August 12th, based on ultrasound measurements and HCG levels, not September, not even close. Even without Patrick's Seattle alibi, Kayla's timeline was medically impossible. She'd been at least 6 weeks pregnant before that September weekend ever happened. "They didn't do basic math," Patricia said, shaking her head. "They were so confident in the emotional manipulation, they forgot to check if the story made biological sense." Then the panic calls started. Derek Morrison somehow got Patrick's new number, maybe through Angelina, maybe through his own resources. Patrick answered and immediately hit record on a call recording app. "Patrick, let's talk like reasonable men." Derek's voice was smooth, practiced. "This situation has gotten out of hand. I think we can find a solution that works for everyone. I'm prepared to offer you a very generous settlement. Very generous. You walk away with enough money to start over somewhere fresh. No courts, no public mess, just a clean break. You're offering me money to stay quiet about your affair and the conspiracy to frame me?" A pause. "I'm offering you a practical solution to a complicated problem. Here's my solution. I'll see you in court, Derek. Bring your lawyer. Bring your wife. This is all going public." "Patrick, don't be stupid." Patrick hung up and sent the recording to Patricia. "That's gold," she said. "He just tried to obstruct justice and admitted guilt by implication." The second call came from Angelina on New Year's Eve, her voice ragged and desperate. "Patrick, please. You have to stop this. Think about the family. Think about what this will do to everyone. My parents, my grandparents. Do you want to destroy them on Christmas? Because of one mistake? You thought about them when you helped frame me on Christmas Eve?" Silence, long and heavy. "I didn't have a choice," she finally whispered. "Everyone has a choice, Angelina. You chose money and a promotion over 6 years of marriage. You chose to stand there and let me be destroyed in front of 23 people on the holiest night of the year. You chose to lock me out of my own house. Those were your choices." Derek said, "I don't care what Derek said. You're an adult. You made your decision." She was crying now. "Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back Christmas. Sorry doesn't give me back my reputation. Sorry is just a word." The third piece of evidence arrived as a voicemail from Kayla, sobbing so hard she could barely speak. "Patrick, I can't do this anymore. I'm so sorry. Derek said it would be easy, that you'd just go away quietly, that nobody would check anything. It wasn't supposed to be this big. Things I said weren't entirely true. I know that now. Please don't take this to court. Please. I'll do anything." Patricia's smile when Patrick played her, the recording was sharp as a blade. "That's a confession. She just admitted to making false statements. We have her." She filed an amended complaint, adding criminal fraud charges and demanding a court-ordered paternity test. She subpoenaed Derek, Angelina, and Kayla for depositions. She sent everything to a carefully selected journalist who'd been investigating workplace misconduct in LA's advertising industry. The story broke on a Tuesday morning. Senior director at LA ad agency placed on leave amid pregnancy scandal and fraud allegations. Derek Morrison was suspended immediately. His wife filed for divorce by Friday. The agency quietly asked Angelina to resign, offering her 2 weeks severance to avoid a wrongful termination suit. She took it. Patrick's phone, which had been silent for weeks, suddenly exploded with texts. Family members who'd blocked him now sent careful, crafted apologies. "We should have listened. We made a terrible mistake. Can we talk? We love you. Family should stick together." Patrick deleted every single one without responding. If you were Patrick right now, what would you do? Would you accept apologies or burn every bridge? Would you let them back into your life? Drop your answer in the comments and hit that like button if you're invested in this story. The settlement negotiations took 3 weeks. Derek's attorney came to the table with desperation in his eyes. Patricia laid out the evidence like playing cards. Call logs, camera footage, hotel records, medical timeline, recorded phone calls, Kayla's confession voicemail. "Your client can settle now with the terms we dictate," Patricia said, "or we can go to trial where all of this becomes public record, played in open court, reported in every news outlet. His choice." Derek agreed to a public acknowledgement of paternity, filed with the court. He agreed to a financial settlement to Patrick for damages, $140,000, enough to cover legal fees and restart a life. He agreed to a restraining order keeping him away from Patrick indefinitely. Angelina signed papers giving Patrick full ownership of the house and favorable terms on all shared assets. The fraud revelation had gutted her legal position. She'd keep her car and some savings, but the life she'd planned was ash. Kayla recorded a notarized video apology, her face swollen from crying, admitting the false accusation and stating clearly that Patrick was never the father, that she'd lied deliberately on Christmas Eve. The video would remain sealed in court records unless she violated the no-contact clause. The clause had teeth designed by Patricia. Any defamation, any contact, any violation of terms, and criminal charges would be immediately refiled with enhanced penalties. 3 months after that Christmas Eve dinner, Patrick stood in his house now truly his, watching morning light come through the kitchen window. The silence felt different, earned, clean. He'd taken down the Christmas tree in January, packed away the decorations he'd shared with Angelina. He'd thrown out the presents that had sat unopened under that tree. He'd painted the bedroom a different color. Slowly, he was making the space his own again. He didn't celebrate their destruction. Derek's career was in ruins. His marriage ended, his name permanently tied to scandal. Angelina had been quietly let go and was working a junior position at a smaller agency. Kayla had moved to Phoenix to live with an aunt, her social media accounts deleted. Patrick felt no joy in any of that. He felt free. His grandmother's words came back to him often now. A lie can run fast, but truth owns the road. Patrick made coffee and opened his laptop. Daniel was coming over that afternoon. They'd been talking seriously about starting a consulting firm, just the two of them, building something clean from the ground up. Patrick's name was clearing. His old company had quietly reached out about returning. Some co-workers had sent genuine apologies. Life was building itself back, brick by brick. He thought about the moment at the restaurant sometimes. The Christmas music playing while his world ended. The gasps, the turned faces, the instant judgment. How fast a community could exile someone. How eagerly people believed the worst, especially when it was wrapped in tears and holiday emotion. But he also thought about the receipts, the call logs, the camera footage, the medical records, how truth, when you held it steady and refused to let go, didn't need volume. It just needed patience and proof. Patrick had learned something profound in those 72 hours of digging through evidence. Justice doesn't announce itself with thunder or Christmas miracles. It builds itself with documentation, with careful hands, with people who refuse to let lies become truth just because they're spoken first, or spoken loudest, or spoken on a holy night designed for belief and forgiveness. He took his coffee to the porch and watched the neighborhood wake up. Spring was coming, trees were budding. Somewhere in this city, 3 people were living with what they'd done, with choices they couldn't undo. Patrick didn't need their apologies anymore. He'd stopped checking his blocked messages folder. He didn't need closure from people who'd shown him exactly who they were on Christmas Eve. He had something better than their regret. He had his truth. He had his name. He had his life back, rebuilt on evidence and honesty instead of convenience and lies. And that was enough. If this story hit you, subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you never miss what happens when truth fights back against conspiracy. Drop a comment right now. Would you forgive them, yes or no? Would you let family back in after they destroyed you on Christmas? I want to know where you stand.